There are stories that make people angry. And then there are stories that make people question what kind of world we're living in. This is one of those stories. In Fortuna, California, investigators searching a property tied to Miranda's Rescue and Shannon Miranda say they recovered 117 intact canine remains along with 21 canine skulls and hundreds of additional bones. According to the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office, USDA veterinarians who examined 70 of the recovered dogs primarily determined that they died from gunshot wounds. County, state, and federal investigators are involved in the case, and according to reporting, this has become a multi-agency investigation into alleged animal cruelty, fraud, conspiracy, and nonprofit law violations. Because a rescue was supposed to save lives, not bury them.
For a third straight day, excavators searched the Humboldt County property of a self-proclaimed no-kill rescue.
Section 1. What Miranda's Rescue was. Miranda's Rescue, operated by Shannon Miranda, was presented as a no-kill animal rescue in Humboldt County. That matters because when people hear the word rescue, they think safety. They think compassion. They think abandoned animals being cared for and given a chance at life. For years, the rescue held a position of trust within the Northern California animal welfare community. Shelters facing overcrowding sent animals there. Volunteers and donors saw it as a place where dogs that had nowhere else to go might still have a chance. According to reporting, the rescue accepted dogs for hundreds of dollars and in some cases thousands of dollars per dog from shelters across California under the promise the animals would be cared for and rehomed. That was the model the rescue presented to the public. Take the case of two dogs named Peter and Tinkerbell. When their owner passed away, her family was left with two large breed dogs they couldn't keep. Desperate to avoid a crowded municipal shelter and wanting a safe alternative, they turned to Miranda's Rescue. According to community tracking groups, Shannon Miranda charged the family $3,500 to take them in. The family paid the fee, surrendering both dogs on April 8, 2025, but after that day, the trail went cold. Peter and Tinkerbell were never posted online for adoption, and they were never listed as finding a new home. A year later, investigators served their search warrant on the property, and still nobody knows where Peter and Tinkerbell are. Section 2. How the investigation began. According to the search warrant affidavit described by ABC7, the investigation began after a neighbor admitted to trespassing onto the property in April and digging up what were believed to be dead dogs. When a neighbor took it upon themselves to verify what was happening on that land, the facade of the rescue began to crumble. That discovery led to a broader law enforcement response. Search warrants were executed and investigators began examining the property and records connected to it. The reporting does not suggest a quick or simple case. It shows an investigation that widened as more evidence came to light.
Thursday's excavation, authorities say dozens of dogs have already been dug up, many with microchips.
Section 3. What investigators found. The confirmed findings are severe. Investigators recovered 117 intact canine remains. They also found 21 canine skulls and hundreds of additional bones. Loose microchips were reportedly recovered as well, which could help identify some of the animals. One of the most visually disturbing details reported in the investigation is that authorities recovered more than 600 dog collars inside a barn on the property. Investigators have said they believe that area may have been used to kill dogs. That is one of the most significant reported findings in the case. The sheer volume of these items, hundreds of collars, speaks to a scale of operation that goes far beyond any single mistake. It is also the point where the story becomes even more difficult to process, because physical evidence is no longer limited to missing records or suspicion. The remains, the skulls, the bones, the collars, and the x-ray findings all point to a serious and active investigation. According to the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office, USDA veterinarians who examined 70 of the recovered dogs primarily determined that many died from gunshot wounds.
The investigation began after a neighbor uncovered a burial pit containing 8 dogs with apparent gunshot wounds.
Section 4. Why the case expanded. The investigation had drawn county, state, and federal involvement. According to reporting, the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office is leading the case with assistance from state and federal investigators. Forensic veterinarians and other specialists have been examining the remains and reviewing the evidence. This isn't just a local issue. The gravity of these findings pulled in resources from state and federal levels to uncover the truth. The involvement of multiple agencies reflects the scale and complexity of the investigation. It also shows that the case is still being built. The reporting does not present this as a closed matter, and no formal criminal charges have been publicly announced at this time of the latest coverage. Investigators are also examining records connected to the transfer of animals and the fees that were paid. Some shelters reportedly paid fees for each dog that was sent to the rescue, and investigators are reviewing whether those records accurately reflect what ultimately happened to those animals.
The Humboldt County Sheriff's Office, FBI, and several state agencies are involved in Thursday's excavation.
Section 5. The unanswered questions. There are still major questions that have not been answered publicly. How many dogs actually died there? How long was this going on? What happened to the animals that remain unaccounted for? And what exactly happened in the barn and elsewhere on the property? Those are the questions that matter now. Because the facts already revealed in the reporting are disturbing enough without adding anything that has not been confirmed. The responsibility now is to stay with what investigators have actually reported and what the evidence actually shows.
We are still not naming the rescue. More than 2 months later, no charges have been filed against the owner or any employees.
Section 6. The human cost. What makes the story hit so hard is the betrayal behind it. If a rescue takes in animals, people trust that those animals are being protected. They trust that donations are helping save lives. They trust that the system is built on compassion. That is why this case has hit so many people so hard. That anger has boiled over into the local community. Small groups of protesters have taken to the streets holding signs and urging the public to stand up for the animals while demanding the permanent closure of the rescue. It's not just about the dead dogs found on the property. It's about the trust placed in a rescue that was supposed to help them. It's about the shelters that sent animals there. It's about the people who believed the animals were being cared for. And it's about the animals who cannot speak for themselves. At minimum, this case is involving 117 recovered canine remains, 21 skulls, hundreds of additional bones, more than 600 collars, and an investigation that includes county, state, and federal authorities. As the reporting makes clear, the investigation is still active, and the full scope of what happened has not yet been publicly determined. Because the animals investigators recovered cannot speak for themselves, so the truth has to.
You cannot put into really words of what exactly it smells like. The closest thing I can think is a pile of dead deer.
Section 7. The consequences of his own actions. So, what should happen to Shannon Miranda? Well, I have a few ideas that I can't say. Because YouTube, but it should be broadcasted on live TV